Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Away Day Show. The casuals are back on the couch again. It's Monday, and we're missing maybe the casual of all of us again.
Yeah, well, back-to-back weeks. It was me back-to-back weeks, and then
now it's Finn back-to-back weeks.
He's following on from the tradition.
Yeah, poor effort, I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's a struggle to get us all on the couch these days. I think, what have we done? Maybe one of the last 8? I don't know exactly the numbers, but yeah, that sounds about right.
It sums it up. Episode 42, though, we're charging along.
Yep.
Now these double episodes. And another, Wednesday, not an interesting week in the Premier League, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Another week where top 4 teams are sort of changing around. The top of the table is changing around. Relegation less, so I think everyone sort of lost who was supposed to lose in the end of the bottom half of the table. But I guess Everton played Crystal Palace tonight, so you never know, it could all swing around there again. Let me get us kicked off with what I learned from the weekend, which is sort of in the same sort of tone as what I was saying there. For me, what I learned was the top 4 race and the title race, those groups of 3, it's probably the best we've had in years. Like, I can't remember a time where we're going to have 3 teams competing for both spots like we have in a long, long time. We're speaking like Wenger, Ferguson, Mourinho days, stuff like that. This is like a new period for the Premier League.
I think there's a lot more of a title race, though, than that top 4 race. I genuinely believe that won't last a lot longer than about 5-6 weeks. The 2 teams that are above United are in terrible form, and I think
it's gone bold early.
I think give it 6 weeks. United will take 4th position, and from that position, I think there'll be no going back. I think Spurs and Villa in the last couple of weeks have been quite poor, dropping points. I think they're showing now their depth of their squads.
Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah.
I think both of them are in positions that was unexpected at the start of the season, both with quite inexperienced squads, should I say. Probably not many players that are really leading the line. I know Tottenham probably got the likes of Romero and Son, who are quite experienced players, but both of them not really doing much on a domestic level.
Yeah. Who do you think are the 2 teams in better position? So forget United.
Spurs.
You can Spurs.
Yeah, I think Villa, although they came back after losing 3 on the trot, or was it 3 away?
3 at home on the trot.
On the trot. I think Spurs are just in a better position because even though Spurs lost, I think they're still going about their game plan, their philosophy in the way that they started the season. Probably just not picking up the points they were doing at the start of the season. Whereas with Villa, there's a change. There needs to be a spark. I think I don't know. It doesn't seem to me like the same Villa is the best way to say it.
Yeah, 'cause it was funny because I was thinking the same thing until this weekend, and I was sort of throwing out. So we'll get into those games because definitely touch on those 2 teams and their different games because I guess for the top 4 race, it definitely United got one of those gutsy sort of gritty wins which United have not been known for. Tottenham have been too Hollywood and conceded 2 cheap goals, and then Villa go and get a hard win away. So it's also swings and roundabouts up there.
Yeah, well, touching quickly on that top 4 race, looking at it, I think the thing that really stands out to me is, we'll touch on United a bit later, but if you just look at the wins, a lot of their games, although it might be late, it might be tight late on, it's those early goals that you didn't see, and I think that's like the rejuvenation of the United team after the new year.
Yeah.
I think if you look at the start of the year, it was more like, we get the late goal. How many goals I think they were even saying in last night's game? After the 76th minute, it was something...
70% or something of goals?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was that high, but
it
was a ridiculous number. And looking at all the early goals, although we're not capitalising on those, it's a lot easier to score 2 in the first half and hold on to a lead than it is to continually chase. It's a bit like when I was talking earlier on in the season about Liverpool. I was saying that Liverpool couldn't continue in the trajectory they were heading.
Yeah.
If they wanted to win the league, they changed something. Maybe they didn't change something, or something just clicked and everything just...
They scored early.
But they started to do things that they weren't doing, and that was a scare. Same with United. I think there was a bit of a scare. Like, well, how long can you continually just score late, rely on like McTominay goals? And don't get me wrong, there's been games like that against Wolves, but I think there's been a change, is the best way to say it.
I want to touch on Tottenham a bit later on when we get to them, but let's go into the first. I want to group them as 2 different games because they're both pretty straightforward for both teams, but the top 2 did what the top 2 had to do. So Liverpool beat Brentford 4-1 and Arsenal battered Burnley 5-0. And I'm thankful that this guy's been in the couch the last 2 weeks, so we wouldn't shut up about Arsenal, I reckon, if he was sitting here, because they have been impressive, but you guys have all been on Arsenal, but are you seeing what I'm seeing with Liverpool now? Because like they've lost a lot of their players. They're still losing players. They lose at least Jones and Jota in this game here. No Trent, no Alisson. But it feels like the same old Liverpool.
Yeah, I think both Arsenal and Liverpool are looking great at the moment. I think they're trying to take a gap on City, which is definitely needed, especially after City's drop points on the weekend. I think it's very important, though, they continue in the way they're doing, because I don't think they could have a slip. There's not even a little slip.
Yeah.
I think both teams need to have those convincing wins as well.
Yeah.
Because I think they could really feel the pressure, probably more so on Arsenal than a Liverpool.
Yeah.
I think Liverpool have been in this position before.
Exactly.
So they might be able to take on the pressure a lot better than Arsenal are. Arsenal will, I should say, considering they might get into a few games which are 1-1 late on and trying to fight for the 3 points. Yeah. But I think that will be really important. I think they need to continue having these big wins. Obviously, it's going to be hard because, in the Premier League, you're not going to continually win 5-0, 6-0, 5-0. I know they've done that over the past couple of weeks, but it's a lot easier said than done to continue like that for the final 13 match weeks. I think that they need to continue, though, with the early goals.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be really important because you look at Arsenal's team, although they experienced it a little bit last year, stepping their toes in the deep end with City, they still don't have any players who are winners, is the best way to play. Okay, they've got Declan Rice, they've got some born leaders, but they don't have players that have been there, done it. And as you've always seen, you always need that 1 year. You look at Liverpool, and we can say that 1 year was last year with Arsenal, but was it really? At the end, they really faded off. It became a City feast, basically, towards the end. And more touching on Liverpool, I am convinced.
Yeah.
I think both of them have the potential to win the league. I think it's just hard for me to look away from City is the best way to say it. I don't think that Liverpool and Arsenal can't do it. And if I'm going to be honest, I'm still probably going to go Liverpool. I'm going to go Liverpool over Arsenal. I still think there's a big way to go to catch City. I know
it's a big catch.
I know they're ahead. So to say catch is probably the wrong word.
Psychologically, though.
But it's psychological. Like, City are going to continue to create and score. And yes, they had a hiccup on the weekend. But I feel like City do that. Chelsea have always come up good against City.
Yeah.
I think they're still trying to find their feet as well, City. I don't think they've hit anywhere near what they think they're going to hit and what I think they're going to hit in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
You look at Haaland, some of the misses against Chelsea, that's not a typical Haaland's performance. But, Liverpool continually taking 3 point after 3 point after 3 point. You start to go, well, are they going to go through that dry patch? So we saw Arsenal do it. Liverpool haven't really, which is actually a testament to Arsenal as well, that they're sticking by Liverpool, having probably more of a drier patch than Liverpool have had the whole season. So you look at Arsenal and City and they've had those, I'm not saying they've had bad patches, but they've definitely been a drought.
Yeah. Like, I think for Liverpool, though, in terms of they're in it because of the injuries, right? Tottenham's had their period, United have had their period, Newcastle had their period, Brighton have had their period now, West Ham are stuck in the middle of it. I think if Liverpool have to had one, it's probably around now. It's bad time because they've got the Carabao Cup final. But I still, just because of the maybe the aura or just the player itself, like players like Jota, I know he went off injured with a pretty bad knee injury, but when he was on, that goal created for Naismith, flicks the header on, these players that just create things out of nothing. And the fact that Salah was probably underdone, he came on a goal, an assist. It just feels like this Liverpool side just have that confidence no matter who's going to play, whether it be Bradley or whether it be Trent or whether it be Gomez or Robertson, whether it be Van Dijk or Kwanzaa. It feels like whoever jumps in that spot just knows the role and will play it. Whereas with Arsenal, absolutely, they're right now, they're killing. I'm just looking at the stats here. So they scored 9, 12, 15, 20 goals across the last 5 games. It's ridiculous. So this is their good period now. But you're right. If they don't get the first goal in a game or someone plays a bit narrow against them and forces them back, do they have that same sort of killer mentality where they can just bring someone off the bench and score? No. That's the difference in the two teams at the moment. For me, that's where I see it coming from.
Well, I think touching on that, I wouldn't say they don't have the same killer instinct. I think they do have that. You look at Trossard coming off the bench as being one of the better bench players. So I know he's been starting,
Yeah.
but like they do still have players like Jesus and stuff. Whether he's starting or Trossard, I know Trossard's starting at the moment, but they've got the players. I think they just lack the experience, which we could come here in 13 match weeks and go, you know what, that didn't matter. But history shows that it does matter. And would you say that last year was enough for them to gain experience?
I think it is, but I still think though, like maybe I said it wrong. Maybe not the killer instinct, but like the fact that it doesn't matter who someone's name is. So it might be like Nketiah versus like a Gakpo. You know, you see the difference. Like Nketiah is more of, you still see him as a lower level player. I still think Jesus is not I don't think I think he's almost a shadow of it. Nunez is very, very good. I think we can all agree. I think the memes are coming out, Højlund and Nunez are going to come like the best two strikers in the league, but it probably could be. They both had a pretty bad start to the season. They're both producing now. Like Nunez as a striker versus Jesus, I'd take Nunez because he creates chances, he assists, he scores. He might miss a few, but at least he's there. Whereas I think Trossard has to be that player for Arsenal. And you say like Jesus, I don't see Jesus have the impact off the bench. I don't see Jesus having that impact from the start. Yep. So this is the small little like pieces around the park. If Ødegaard's off, we saw what happened when Ødegaard and Saka had a few, not bad weeks, but just a little bit off it. They went through that bad run. They lost to West Ham. They lost to Aston Villa. That's the thing with Arsenal. I think if a few players don't play to their level, a few things can fall apart. In the last few weeks, I think Ødegaard and Saka have probably been the best players on the planet in the last few weeks. They've been killing it for this team. But when Salah doesn't play well, Diaz is there, Jota's there, Nunez can lift up the slack. I feel like even experience, some of these players might not be as experienced as the Arsenal players or be in this position, but I feel like they're just ready-made. I don't know if it's a Klopp thing, I don't know if it's the Liverpool thing, or maybe it's just my thing. I just see that whether Bradley's come and played like some of the best performances when he's played. This guy's 20 years old and some Scottish right. He's not like anything special. Yeah. You know, Gomez comes at left back, never played left back in his life. He's playing incredibly well. McAllister's had to play 6 for most of the year. Now the Endo's there, you can see the bounce back. I just think that it just must be what Klopp's done, the system he's put in. It gives me more faith in them.
Going on from that, do you think that the Arteta-Pep game style then relies more upon the better players in comparison to Klopp, where it can be more of a... I'm not saying both of them are system game plans, but one of them is more like player in, player out. Whereas if you look at Arteta's mirroring of Pep.
Exactly, yeah.
Pretty much. And you look at all the Pep teams he's always had quality players.
Absolutely,
and Pep's an amazing manager, don't get me wrong, because some managers can't do it with the quality players. You've seen so many along the lines.
right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But do you think that the Arteta and Pep game plan does rely on basically world-class players in every position, whereas the Klopp's game plan doesn't?
Klopp's come with Borussia Dortmund and with Liverpool, right? The underdogs, whereas Pep's had an Arteta now trying to build that superpower team. So when you're slightly off, it shows, and especially the players that's so important, Ødegaard and Saka. But I'd like, for you, would you rather have Klopp managing your team or Arteta managing your team?
I think it definitely. I think it definitely depends on the players you have.
Yeah, I think that's what
so. Like, if I was to have someone replace Pep, I'd choose Arteta because the current players that City have would suit Arteta's game plan more. But saying that, the players that Liverpool had, Klopp has now adjusted to after only having 1 year probably down. So it just shows that I think the best way to put it is, if you look at Klopp's game plan, it's very much based off intensity.
Yeah.
So don't get me wrong, they've got world-class players everywhere.
Absolutely.
But it's a lot easier to mirror intensity than probably more of that like maestro type performance. Pure skill, tiki-taka, pure ability.
Yeah.
Everyone in the Premier League has pure ability, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But I think that like the Liverpool itself, it's more like you can, if you put in the intensity and understand what your role is, it's probably a lot easier to perform at a higher level than if you're at Arsenal. For example, for you to replace Ødegaard or you to replace Saka, Saka's providing the like goal contributions, whilst also his touch and everything like that is second to none. Yeah, which probably is a lot harder to mirror if you got one of those academy graduates coming through. Whereas at Liverpool, it's more like, okay, you mirroring Trent. Don't get me wrong, Trent's got an unbelievable cross, and to do it and to mirror Trent, you've got to have outstanding ability. But I think it's like your role is okay. So and it's just you do Trent's role. Whereas I'm not saying they don't do Saka's role when they come in or something like that. But I feel like it's just
so
based
specific.
on more ability.
Yeah.
Well, you look at City, for example, is the best way to say it. When they lose those top players, there's a big drop.
Yeah. Midfield, biggest example. When
Yeah.
Rodri's not there, they look like they haven't.
So there's a huge
Lost it
drop.
with Rodri.
So I think instead of going on and having this huge, like, how can I say, having this huge go on about Arsenal's game plan, Liverpool's game plan, I think it's just one suited more towards those world-class players, whereas one isn't. And whether you say those Arsenal players are world-class or not, they're technically world-class.
You class them as world-class players. Like the best, I think you sort of half, my example would be, you said Saka, right? I don't think many players can do what Saka does, but the work that like Jota or Diaz does is just like your energy. You're just going to run, you're going to press, you're going to flick the header on, you're
Don't
going to
get me
slide
wrong, they're both amazing players.
Great. I love them as players.
But if they were to go into other teams where it was a bit more slow paced and stuff, they would still be great Premier League players, but I'm not sure that they're going to be considered
and they're more
the best.
They're more replaceable though.
Whereas someone like Jota is probably this season a top 5, top 10 player in the Prem.
Absolutely.
Whereas I feel like if he went to another club, I don't know if he gets that recognition. He got the recognition at Wolves, but not to that degree. I think Klopp allows you to take your game style to the whole new level.
It's that makes it replaceable. If it's simply just work ethic, energy, and intensity, you can replace those things. That's what Bradley's been doing. That's what Jota's been doing. That's what Diaz does.
Yep.
And that's why I think that, like, if I was even a Man United fan, I'd want Klopp there first over Arteta because I feel like he just lifts average players and makes them great. Whereas I feel like nothing wrong with Arteta and, as you said, Pep. They just get the good stuff and make them even better. But anyway, it's tough. It's close to the moment. So Liverpool win 4-1. Arsenal win 5-0. So the table right now, Liverpool 57 points, Arsenal 55 points. Now City sit on 53 points. We'll get on their game a little bit later, but it's all going to be like a 2-point gap between three teams. So very exciting to see. And for Liverpool, worrying because they got their cup final this weekend, I believe.
Okay.
And they've got no Alisson, no Trent, no Jota, no Jones. Salah's played 60 minutes when he shouldn't have played at all, I don't think. So they're going to be a bit of a worrying sign for Liverpool there, but hopefully they can get over the line for Klopp in the big cup final versus Chelsea. That'll be a big game. The next one to touch on, we sort of preloaded it. Villa 2, Fulham 1.
Yep. One
of those teams, and that's a top 4 race. I was quite impressed. The fact that I didn't have much expectation, other than a win, but it was a tough game because Fulham were Fulham were the yo-yo team of the comps. They'll have one good week, one bad week. They turned up for this game here. They made it hard for Aston Villa. But Ollie Watkins, again, 2 goals. I feel like he had a little bit of a downturn. He's back with 2 goals. You got Liam Bailey linking up to play well. Kamara might be out, but then Tielemans comes in and creates a great assist. It just all seemed to work for Aston Villa on the weekend. And going to Fulham's no easy beat. We know as United fans.
Going anywhere in the Premier League these days isn't easy. Maybe going to Sheffield and Burnley.
That's the only places.
Is maybe an easy beat, but anywhere else, it's a hard game these days.
Like to get 2 goals convincingly, and then the way that Fulham were coming at them and counter-attacking them. We'll touch on Tottenham a little bit. They got counter-attacked badly and they lost. So, the fact that Aston Villa were allowed to have people come onto them, but they still held back and defended well. Fulham had the odd chance here and there, but they didn't allow them any clear-cut opportunities. So I think for Aston Villa, it's a big tick in my books in terms of progression.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I think it's good for the Premier League as well because I think if Villa lost there, really, they were probably done.
Yeah.
And I think the longer you can have these different races going on, whether it's you got the first race, the title race, then the top 4 race, then probably even a race for that 7th position, which is would that be a final Europa League maybe? Possibly?
League,
because I think they said, I was listening to a podcast and I think Premier League are still 79% chance.
We should get the 5.
That we should get the 5 Champions League, which means we'll get still the 2 Europa. So Europa will be 6 and 7.
And Conference 8.
Yeah, Conference 8. So there's then there's another fight because then there's a gap from 3rd to 4th, obviously.
Yeah.
4th, 5th, 6th right now fighting for the 4th position. And
then you got
there's a 7 is it 7th to 11th? Yes.
Something like that.
Wolves are in 11th.
Wolves in 11th,
And they're 6 points above whoever is in 12th. So there's a whole probably only separating about 3 points.
3 points from 7 to 11th.
And then you've obviously got a relegation battle. So with 13 match weeks left, this is what you want.
Premier League shaking their hands. Here comes the money.
Yeah, so here comes the money. And as a fan, this is what you want to see as well. You want to see it taken to the final match week, no matter what you're fighting for, because in so many times in the past years, it's just been over with 3-4 games left.
Last 5 games is on the beach and stuff.
Yeah, and it becomes a bit boring, and you get those teams. Even we were talking about last year that were in those positions, the 12ths and the stuff.
Yeah.
That were like at the beach pretty much, and anyone from 12th onwards, I wouldn't even say is necessarily safe. No. I think they're on 30 points at the moment. Yes, that might be 10 points clear, but it's not.
They can go get Conference League as well. If it's really drastic happens, that's the thing. Exactly. That's what's good about this year. It's like, you're right, there's like, obviously all the groups, but then even those like the Bournemouths and the Fulhams and even Brentford to a degree, if they keep going on the form they're going with Tony back, they can all like push up. Maybe not all the way to the Conference League, but
you just don't know what's going to happen. I think Newcastle even are 6 points off United. If United go down another dry patch,
Newcastle come up.
They could come back up. Yeah. Even like you could never rule them out from finishing like a 4th. Like, don't get me wrong, I think it's very unlikely because I think they're 11 points with 13 match weeks left. But from a Villa point of view, touching on that game, I think it was impressive for them to get back on the like winners list.
Mentality was good,
especially away from home. Like you touched on it before, but I think it's a very important 3 points, especially for their season, because I think their season could have really just plummeted, and all these expectations that were building across the early games, like the title race at one point, like they could have just disappeared. Obviously, they're not in a title race, but they would still be at least hoping to finish 5th and get a Champions League spot, which is very much on the cards, I think. Like, considering 4th and 5th should get Champions League, and you'd think that they couldn't finish any worse than 6th. Yeah. And right now, in the pole position,
they're number 1.
If we're going to classify this an F1 race, they've in qualifying at the moment, they're on pole. So
it's going to be interesting though, because it's good for their mentality, but what happens if they go through another loss at home? What happens then? Because
it's going to be easy run in. I think it really depends. So if Spurs continue to lose, I don't think it'll be a big problem. But if Spurs can get back on the winners list, put a couple good games together in a row, then they get some confidence. United got a bit of confidence at the moment. Don't get me wrong. We've got City, I think, in 2 match weeks, which probably is a write-off.
Could be 6-0, could be bad,
You just never know what's going to happen. But I don't know. I don't think it will necessarily diminish their confidence. Yeah. But I don't think they can have too many more of those bad performances, put it that way.
Yeah. Quickly just touch on the striker thing. It's just quickly before we move to the next game. Very exciting because Raul Jimenez had a bit of a good game spell, like 3 games, then got injured or red carded. Muniz has found his feet. But Ollie Watkins, again, as I said, he was in the golden boot race, but again, last few weeks, had sort of just lost himself at 2 goals. So those 2 strikers, if you're FPL people, keep an eye on those guys, but they were very impressive. And Muniz looks like a Premier League proven striker. I didn't realise he was going to be that guy, but he's turned out to be a decent striker. I think it's 5 goals in 4 games, so very impressive for him. Now, our segment of the week, again, it's getting to the end of the season, so we're drying up of ideas. So I thought, why not just do the hated 11? And again, let's preface before we jump into it. It's a combination of people who hate them, people who are poor, like poor performance, that's why people hate them. Combination, maybe we don't like them. So it's just, again, subjective list, so we can't really get angry with who we pick. It's just a bit of a debate, bit of back and forth about our Premier League most hated 11. Something a bit different. I thought we'd have a bit of fun.
How do you want to go about this?
Should we go one? Because there's 2 of us, we'll go 1 for 1.
Yeah, we'll go for 1 for 1. So
4-3-3, right? We stick with the classic. Yeah.
Whenever I do one of these, I try to keep it classic because you can always do these weird formations, but
it can be both.
It's just easiest to do it that way.
Yeah.
So starting off in goal, Pickford.
We went Pickford. I want another shit house. I want Emi Martinez. Yeah. This is a personal. It's like a personal hate because like United, the shimmy like against 2 years ago when Bruno hit the crossbar. The shimmy to the
I definitely get that, but I think Pickford's just been like
for so much
Premier
longer.
League shithouse for so much longer.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like the fact as well that he's been the England number 1. Don't get me wrong, he's a good keeper.
It's a combination.
It's like everyone hate, not necessarily like myself because I don't give a crap about England, but all the English fans hate him because like all these other English goalkeepers are never getting a chance, and they're like, "Oh, it's stuffing up our World Cup chances, our Euro chance." There's like a few of those players in my list that are playing in the English national team that are like, "That's why you're hated."
That's why
you're hated by all the English fans just because of Southgate. So it's actually not even your fault; it's Southgate's fault. But unfortunately, the hate goes to the player most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, same thing. They're both shit houses. Goalkeeper's pretty easy. Whoever's the biggest shit house in your mind is the player you choose.
Yeah, so yours is more of like better player, but just takes the
way
piss.
to go about it. Yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
Pickford does take the piss, but it's more
Yeah.
like
A bit
it's
of a
also
average
there's
player
also
as well.
yeah.
And
Okay.
I got a few of those, but I got a few also like big time players that people just don't like. So
I've got an interesting one. Hopefully we'll have the same one because I wanted to bring it up.
doing a left back.
Left back.
This is the hardest, by the way, for me.
This was the hardest, by the way, for me as well. But I decided to go with who I hate the most.
Fair enough. Go ahead.
Zinchenko.
Zinchenko. I was very close to putting Zinchenko in
And
as
I'll
well.
tell you why. Not that anything he does. I just don't get where all this praise comes from.
Exactly.
Like, he was a City reject who never was great for City. Come to Arsenal, and don't get me wrong, he's been better. But it's like, oh, he's the best left back in the world. He's this and that. It's just like, these Arsenal fans got to calm down.
Just calm down, yeah.
So, like, that's mine. It's not that I hate the player. It's I hate the fans of how they talk about the player.
And he's absolute passion merchant as well. He's not even that, like...
There's a lot of better left backs in the league.
Absolutely. My left back, again, it's sort of a personal one as well, but I've got James Milner.
Yeah.
Because one, he's played for Liverpool, Man City and Leeds. And two, because if you play for Liverpool, Man City, Leeds, Aston Villa and Brighton, you're going to be hated by a lot of Premier League sides. So he's one of those guys, fair play. He's had a great career. I respect his career. But when you play for that many teams, you're going to be hated by a lot of people. So James Milner is my makeshift left back in my team. Centre backs now.
Yeah, so moving on to centre backs.
Mine is very interesting, by the way.
Kurt Zuma.
I didn't do because that's a good call. I didn't do Zuma. That's
I
a
just
great
brought back
call.
because he kicked the cat.
Kicked the cat. The cat kicking.
So like
He got
all the hate from kicking the cat, which is obviously deserved. But yeah, had to bring that in for the laughs.
I forgot. I didn't think of that. Who's the other centre back?
Harry Maguire.
Yeah, I'd Harry Maguire.
So like I don't necessarily mind him at the moment. I think he's actually playing quite well.
At the moment, he's one of the best around.
I think between Southgate and Ole continually picking him when he was out of form, no problems at the moment because he's in form. Martinez is injured, so he probably is the best centre back to be playing, and he's in and he's playing quite well. But the thing that made me like hate him the most, and United fans, English fans, the reason they all hated him was because he was continually getting picked after mistake after mistake after mistake, which genuinely just like causes people to abuse you.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
Like it's not deserved whatsoever, but it's just the passion of the fans.
Yeah, exactly. I went with him, and obviously again as well because you're Man United captain as well because it comes alongside that. Now my next one's gonna be an interesting one.
Yeah,
this is where the first one I broke away. I went Virgil van Dijk because as a Liverpool player, people call him overrated.
I wanted to, but I hate him. But
to you guys on the couch, I don't think I'm big fans of Virgil van Dijk. He's a Liverpool player. He gets put up there as one of the best centre backs of all time, and people are like, is he really that? Similar to Zinchenko, right? To a different degree. I think he's obviously one of the top 5 centre backs in this sort of generation. But sometimes when you're good, sometimes when you play for a big team and when you make mistakes, have a little downturn, you can become a very hateable player. So as such, he's gone. I think Liverpool fans love him. I love him.
And I hear all this crap. Oh, he's the best smelling player in the league. All this kind of stuff. I'm like, calm it down. I'd rather as a centre back, you should smell like rubbish. Like make the striker.
He's an absolute aura merchant as well. So that's why people don't like him either.
Well, I don't know what his idea there is. Is there some tactical like prowess he's got to keep the striker really close to him?
So he can make the tackle in or something like that. Some
like they get attracted to the smell or something. Like I don't know what's going on.
And
then
snap goes straight through.
Snap him. Like who knows?
So I like it. Yeah. So both Harry Maguire. It's the first common ground. Right back,
Kyle Walker.
Now, is this what's happened recently?
Yeah. I think that just went under the carpet, and I will bring that up. Like, bloke just has like another family,
a whole different
family,
kids,
like,
wife, everything.
Admits it, and then I hear like 2 days of like a bit of hate, and then it just disappears off the face of the earth. Like,
Football
was this some agreement with like the journalist to like for it to come out and then slide it under the carpet? Like, he deserves a bit more hate for this. Like,
football Twitter was poor. I expected more.
Some moral dilemma coming in like at the moment, and no one really like cares about it. Like, what's going on? Especially from a like
City players.
City's got no fans. You'd think all the United, Liverpool fans would jump on it like a bunch of seagulls or cicerellos.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's actually rattled me. That's actually quite good. No, I thought the same thing. Football Twitter should have been on it. Like, City have drawn as well. Surely football Twitter has to be
better. I don't know what's going on there.
Poor from Stokesy and poor from Martial. United Trey as well. Poor from him. I went similar again. I went another Liverpool player. I went Trent at right back. Again, it's the whole like people again, Liverpool tax.
they all love him.
Right back was like, does he actually defend? Again, these are two players I love. I love Trent. I love Virg.
Top 5 player in the league, but he's not a top 5 right back. That's the funniest way I put it.
You put it like that, yeah, fair play. But yeah, again, Liverpool, the whole English thing as well. Does he defend? All of that, and you love to hate some decent players. And this year, these guys have killed it.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, but again, this is the fun of the most hated team. As United fans on the match day, I'm hating these two because they're all this rubbish. So yeah, I went Trent at right back for me. Now midfielder, I was all over the place.
Calvin Phillips.
You stuck with Calvin Phillips? I was so close to putting Calvin Phillips in.
Well, two things. Yeah, I don't really like him as a player. When he was at Leeds, he caused a bit of grief for me, I should say. Yeah. And then he's gone to City. Double up. And then disappeared off the face of the earth. So I was like, can I really hate someone that doesn't play? Like,
that makes sense.
But then, like, all his England stuff, like continually starting over, like at the start, Bellingham, when Bellingham was in like good form at Dortmund. I know Bellingham's took it in the finally in the World Cup, but like only because Calvin Phillips wasn't getting any game time. Like,
bro didn't see a pitch for 24 years.
Yeah, but like it's like Southgate's rang him up and go get some like game time and I'll put you back in the team. Like,
I'm surprised you don't hate him because he's costing your your mighty West Ham is what he's doing. Like, he's
terrible.
He's had a stinker.
Moyes, don't put him back on the pitch. You're doing so well before he come. He's come and he hasn't seen a win. Like, don't even put him on the bench.
Stands up in the stands
with the under 23s.
Yeah. Let him do his work. I did the Uno reverse. I went Declan Rice because 5.5 million people hate him. That's the population of Ireland. He played 3 games for Ireland and he left the nation to become an English citizen. So every Irish person hates him. Every West Ham fan hates him because he left West Ham. And I don't particularly like him because he's an Arsenal player. Yeah, that's the reason. I think he might be one of the most hated persons in the Premier League because he has a whole country that hate him.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
So I think that's my bold take, but I'm going to go with Declan Rice.
Yeah, as well. Did you hear the stuff that came out? They didn't even want to go to Arsenal. That was his second choice.
We want to go City.
No, they didn't come out, but apparently like us. It doesn't say the club. It was apparently United or City or something.
Can you imagine if you went?
But like,
anyway,
yeah, apparently like obviously it was like funds. They didn't want to spend the money or something along the lines.
It's United then, obviously, if it's funds problem. So it's a Glazer problem.
Apparently that was like he didn't want to go to Arsenal.
So Arsenal fans gonna be questioning his loyalty now as well. Double that down. Your second midfielder,
Bruno. So I love Bruno.
Bruno who?
Fernandes.
Okay.
So I love Bruno, but I just had to put him in because of how many people hate him.
He might be the most hated
He's one of those people that if he's on your team, you love him, but otherwise you hate him. And as a United fan, I love him, but I didn't do this whole list based off who I hate. There'd be a couple other people on this list, probably the whole Liverpool team.
Whole Liverpool City team,
I think that's probably the most hated player in the Premier League.
I'll skip. Number 10, I had Bruno Fernandes. Obviously, because everyone says he moans, this, that, and the other. But he's my captain. I'll stick by my captain. But I can see why. He dives, he moans, he scores a lot of goals, he plays all the time. If you're any other fan in the world, you'd hate him because he's always going to be there. He's always a menace. He's always creating chances. Definitely. Top chance creator, top player. Yeah. Did you see his heat map, by the way, the Premier League released?
Yeah.
He's run like the second most kilometres and his heat maps everywhere. It's the whole pitch is covered.
Which can be a good thing and a bad thing.
This is to your point at the start of the season. You're very right.
This is what I was saying, like, he gets in other people's space, and I think now that like Mainu's playing, it's probably a little bit better because I've seen him stay a little bit higher because he's covering a bit more space. But we'll touch on that later.
Later one, yeah. But I just had to touch on that. Yeah, your next midfielder. Oh, really?
Yeah, so
Dance Merchant.
I like him. Another one that I like because there's not many people I hate unless they play for like City or Liverpool.
The big boys.
Maybe a couple Arsenal, but they haven't really hit my radar yet.
They're still small club. They haven't
still won anything. So maybe a couple years. But I feel like these Brazilians, that come around, they do the little dance moves and stuff. Like, there's a bit of hate for them. Like, it goes under the radar, I would say. But if you actually look at it, it's a bit like the Declan Rice one. That goes under the radar because like no one gives a crap about the island, island supporters and stuff. But there's actually a lot of people that hate Paqueta.
Especially when he puts out dance moves when he scores goals.
And then he's got like convictions against him as well.
You can't help when you have stuff like that against your name. But that sort of leads on my one. I want another Brazilian.
Yeah.
I want the other Bruno, though. I want Bruno Guimaraes.
Yeah,
Two things. Again, he does the whole, like, when he scores, he'll give it the big ones. And secondly, he's a bit of a shit house on the field. He'll snap someone, needs to snap someone. He's good for a good dive here and there. He has 11 celebrations for one goal. I'm pretty sure that on TikTok.
Yeah.
He's just that guy. And obviously because Newcastle have sort of come good, everyone's like, we do really like this guy. Superb player. But again, some of the stuff he does when he like hacks people down, some of the dives, some of the celebrations. He's
I didn't put someone on my list, but that reminded me of Douglas Luiz. I was really tempted to put him on. Just basically after last week. Hearing his little shimmy, he can go. Good stuff. He was at home, but he can go home with the 0 points.
0 points. Walk home with 0 points, mate. Front three. Do you want to do the front three all together?
Yeah, I'll do it together, but it's not really like... I didn't really do a proper front three.
Same. I had to move one
I've
guy
got
out.
2 strikers.
Yeah, same. I had 2 strikers. I think we know the 2 strikers are.
Yeah, so I've got Grealish, Richarlison, and Maupay.
Oh, I had a similar one. I didn't have Grealish though. I had Raheem Sterling on the right.
Yeah, I can see that.
Liverpool, City, Chelsea. He's a bit of a tapping merchant. People slate him for running like a T-Rex, and he's a bit of that sort of guy. He's easy to pick on. That's why I put him in there. But Grealish is a good shout as well.
So Grealish is a good shout. And we both have Richarlison and Maupay.
Obviously, those two.
Maupay might take the reign off Bruno.
Ooh.
Only reason Bruno is more hated is because he's a big club player.
Yeah, big club player.
Like the fact Maupay receives so much crap playing for nobody. Who's he played for? Brentford, Brighton.
And Everton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's really never got anywhere
Bro doesn't score goals
concern.
either. Yeah.
Oh, he's scored a couple now.
Recently, but hasn't really scored any goals.
Yeah, crazy. And then Richarlison is just Richarlison. Dunsany Pombo comes out blokes the pigeon.
And he just does some stupid stuff. He just kicks out at anyone. He'll just hack someone out for no reason.
He reminds me a bit of Cantona.
Cantona, that's exactly one.
But he's just crap.
Yeah,
you can't be Cantona.
He's just a loose. I feel like he's got the clappers, the monkey with the clappers in his brain. Cause
maybe in about 15 years' time we'll hear a nice speech at the Ballon d'Or ceremony.
I love football. I like to snap people.
The crimes will multiply.
He feels like I don't know what's going on in his brain, but obviously something. But he's been killing it recently, so fair play to the bloke. But yeah,
fair play.
Him and Maupay, just those guys, just shit houses.
Well, that rounds up our list.
Round it up. Do you just go through your team and I'll go through mine one more time?
So Pickford,
Yep.
Walker, Zuma, Maguire, Zinchenko,
Yep.
Calvin Phillips, Bruno and Paqueta,
Yep.
Richarlison, Maupay, Grealish.
Yep. His teams are good. I went Emi Martinez, James Milner, Harry Maguire, Virgil van Dijk, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Declan Rice, Bruno G, Bruno Fernandes. I went with Neil Maupay, Richarlison and Raheem Sterling.
Just looking at this list though, I find it hard. If you go back in the old day, I think it'd be so easy.
I hate players.
To just thinking of players that everyone would have, Roy Keane, the Vidiches.
Keane, Vieira.
Oh, Vieira, yeah.
Probably Henri if you're anyone other than Arsenal fan. Cantona. Even Alan Shearer. It's just so easy to hate
there's so
players.
many players Giggs.
Yeah. Scholes.
There's so many players that everyone hated, whereas it's today, it's everyone seems too nice. And I think it's because it's partially the referee's fault. There's less of those, basically career-ending challenges, which, don't get me wrong, it's good because you don't want to see players
No.
But how many players back then did have career-ending injuries, really?
They just got on with it. They just got up and kept playing. It wasn't
Alfie Haaland.
That's the canon event. That's the canon event. If Roy Keane never snapped Haaland's dad, Haaland would be at United right now. That's what I'm saying. 2 good teams. Where does that team finish in the Premier League? I think my team should do it because I've got a lot of good players. Actually. I'm going to give my team Europa League.
Oh, no. I'll give mine top 10, but not Europa League.
I've got a really good back. Well, Maguire and Van Dijk, I think, is a good duo with Trent.
I've got Zuma and Maguire.
You got no pace at all. You got 2 slows. I've got Emi Martinez. He's probably one of the best
fullbacks.
keepers. Yeah, you guys are better. I got James Milner. He's just in a workhorse. The problem is my front 3 just don't score goals.
Well, on current form, my midfield's terrible. We've got Bruno, Paqueta, and then nothing. There's just a massive gap.
This hollow midfield in the ground. End-to-end stuff. End-to-end.
Probably will be hollow after 5 minutes after a red card as well.
Someone will snap somebody. Yeah, exactly. All right. That was good fun.
Yep.
Next game. Actually, you know what? We probably should talk about this game a bit longer because Newcastle have bottled this one as well. 2 games at home in a row they've drawn.
Yeah.
They drew 2-2 to Bournemouth, my team.
Newcastle have gone under the radar because, don't get me wrong, there's been a little bit of crap about everything that's gone on with Newcastle dropping.
Yeah.
And I feel like the Tonali thing kind of gets them out of it.
I don't think you can get out of that because the club should know. That's a club's fault.
No. Yeah, we'll touch on that later because I want to bring him up on a special.
That's another list we've got going on. Yeah.
Okay. But
It's on the club, man.
Yeah, no, it is on the club, but I don't understand how they have such a good year, bring in all these players who are of decent quality,
Absolutely.
and then drop off so significantly. Like, we're talking to a point where if they continue the trajectory they are, they might not even finish top 10.
Yeah, they're going to be battling for conference, I feel like.
Yeah.
Because if those three that fighting for fourth work it out, so 5, 6, that's Europa. Maybe we think maybe one more Europa League spot left. Do they get it? Does Brighton find some form now?
It's just crazy. Like, I expected them to have a very similar trajectory to United to maybe start off and have quite a significant bad patch, but eventually find somewhat form. I don't think they found a decent patch of form at any point during the season. They're another yo-yo club.
They're a yo-yo club that goes under the radar because they'll beat the small teams easily. But they've gone and drawn to Luton 4-4 when your defence was the best part of your team last year, and then drawn to Bournemouth 2-2, who haven't won in 5 games. Like their 2 teams haven't won. I don't know.
There's Eddie Howe,
I've been big on Eddie Howe.
Everyone was going on about the Ten Hags and stuff, but there is zero. I'm not seeing anything from Newcastle. Whether they've got a better game plan or not, win, loss, pick up a couple points against a crap team, lose to everyone else. What's their longest winning streak so far this season?
Because
have they even put 3 wins together? Maybe even 2. Have they put 2 wins together? Probably. Realistically, they probably put 2 wins.
So they won versus Forest. Then they drew. They won versus Villa, then they lost to City, they lost to Liverpool, they lost to Forest, they lost to Luton, they beat Fulham, they lost to Spurs, they lost to Everton, they beat United, and they had 2 in a row there, and lost to Bournemouth away, they beat Arsenal, they drew. They won. Yeah, they haven't. Three games at the start of the season. They beat Brentford, they beat Sheffield United, and they beat Burnley.
Okay, but we're looking at 2 of those teams are
they're 2 going down, and 1 Brentford in relegation.
2 are guaranteed down, and Brentford
were
without a Tony.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That's a total different Brentford. So yeah.
So longest streak's 3 once this season.
Yeah, and
that's not a top 6 team.
No.
And it's a good point. Because I saw on Twitter someone raised it about Tottenham and United, saying everyone's sure Andrew's the best manager ever, and Eric Ten Hag sort of got sacked, and now we're 3 points off them. But at the same point last season, Eddie Howe and Newcastle in a final versus Manchester United and Eric Ten Hag. Both teams have injury problems. Both teams had the odd signing in summer. One team's gone one way, one team's gone the other way.
Yeah, and one cops a lot. But
I get it's a whole big club mentality thing.
It's the also the opposition fans who just obviously you're always gonna United are the biggest club in the world.
Yeah,
they're always gonna cop hate.
Yeah,
so
I think Eddie Howe,
I embrace it.
I live for it. Eddie has to watch his back, I think, in the summer. If Newcastle want to, if
the Saudis takes it to the summer, does he?
Well, that'd be a bit harsh, but they've gone so far now. You can't give up.
Oh yeah, I know, but
because you're out of Champions League, obviously no Carabao Cup. They're in the FA Cup. Are they? No, they're not.
No,
they're not. Are they? I didn't know they're in the FA Cup either.
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
So you literally got Premier League football to go, and that means you got to stick by him surely just for the end of the season. Oh, they've got Blackburn, so they're still in the FA Cup.
Yeah,
so maybe they can do something there. But you got Premier League and FA Cup. See it out. I'm always a bit more protective. Just see it out the season. Don't change anything now. But in the summer, if you don't get Europa League football at least, if you don't get the 7th spot, he's sacked, and you get a new manager in. The problem is you have to spend again, and we've seen they have FFP problems. They couldn't spend much in January. It's going to be a bit of a problem. And I get their signings. Harvey Barnes was injured for a lot. Tonali obviously has gone and done what he did. And you've lost Botman for a little bit. But still, this Botman's come back for a while now. Harvey Barnes has been back for about 3 or 4 games. That midfield is still good enough to win games of football. It's not a team to go lose to Luton and to draw to Luton and to draw to Bournemouth at home. At home as well.
There's some serious concerns. Serious question marks I'd have if I was the Newcastle board after taking such a huge leap last year up the ladder. Then they pull out the funds Isaac in the middle of the year, and then Tonali and all these kind of players. And I know they're not playing, but they've got some serious quality players at that club.
Absolutely.
That they can't be performing like that. And this is where it comes back to all these clubs that are big. You'd say Newcastle are now getting towards the bigger club.
Yeah,
all these clubs are okay. I understand you might have a dry patch, no problems. You have injuries, which they had. All goes. That's all right. I'm not big on just going to sack in the manager. But it comes to a point where you go, well, now we're getting into March pretty much, and it still hasn't come around. You're getting the players back, and it's don't get me wrong, it's not probably sack the manager yet, but when do you? If it gets to April and there still hasn't been a good run of games,
And the thing is, they have a certain style of football, but it just seems to not work when you don't score first.
Yeah.
If they don't get on top of teams and overwhelm them, I feel like they can never get control of games. Because this game here, if it wasn't for Dubravka like making some big saves, Bournemouth could have scored 3-1, being 3-1 up, and after that, the game's gone.
We just look at how quickly football can change. Like, only 9 months ago, they go 20 minutes in and beat Tottenham 5-0.
Yeah.
Like, you look at Tottenham now compared to them, and probably less funds Tottenham used over the summer break than Newcastle did. Were on a way worse trajectory, had a brand new manager in having to put across his philosophy.
Yeah.
And you look at Eddie Howe and you start to question, like, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Does this last? Like, it's just, I'd be, if Newcastle fans, I think
if they don't get Europe he's got to get the sack.
That'd be frustrated though, because it's like home is supposed to be automatic wins. Like that was what it was last year and the start of this season. It was at home, tick, win, whatever. Like, I know, and I'm very, very big on Bournemouth, but they've had a really rough patch. 6 games without a win. They've been really out of form. Solanke struggled for goals. They go and score 2 at your place of home. Like, that's your home game, that's your fortress. I know one of them was a slip from the keeper, but again, like, it's just like, it's not the same feel with Newcastle. Not the same aura.
Definitely not.
And when you lose that feel and that connection, that bounce, that's when you can easily just slide very fast if you're not careful. So I think you're right. If you come this summer, you haven't got Europa League. I think even if you get Conference League, I think you still have to get rid of him.
Yep.
Show some balls and say, let's try and take it on to the next level. But yeah, very interesting. 2-2 there. And that means Newcastle now, as you said, they're in their own sort of own position because they end up being now 37 points, 7 off United and 6, so they're away from that battle. Brighton are a point ahead of them. With Brighton, how bad they've played this season, they're still ahead of them. And West Ham only 1 point behind them.
Yeah,
West Ham haven't won in 2024
or something.
Yeah. And that leads into our next point, perfectly segue to our next game, which is Forest 2, West Ham 0. The Calvin Phillips curse is real.
Yeah, it's like, real. He's genuinely...
He might be the worst player in the world right now.
Well, yeah, we'll come to that in another segment as well.
It's coming close. The next segment's coming up.
But, yeah, I don't know what's going on there. I think, Calvin Phillips hasn't been great for them and probably cost them a lot of points since he's been back with the cards and just some of the mistakes he's making. He just looks off. Like, but sometimes you don't have to... it's hard to blame him. He hasn't played football in, like, 18 months.
Yeah, he played 3 starts in 18 months.
Yeah, which is crazy. And, like, you can do as much training as you want, but, like,
you ain't rash,
you always hear it about, like, fitness of a player. So... we're talking about quality here. Think about it in a fitness term as well.
Yeah,
you can do as much training as you want, but you only get fitness from matches. That's why teams get fitter as the season goes on. Yeah, at match week 1, they're not going to be as fit as they are at match week 20, and as it goes on, and then maybe some other factors come in like tiredness and injuries, but that's longer in the season. But West Ham are getting into a serious danger. Like, I still think they can't finish below 11th, just because I think they're still like 8 points, and they'll still pick up some wins. I'm genuinely confident they'll still pick up some wins. We don't know, but
they should come.
But, I think they just got to gather their team back together. Kudus is back now. I know he's been back.
Whenever Paqueta comes back, that's when I'll really, really judge them. But still, if you're West Ham and you're, like, obviously it was the battle, that's where I've highlighted this game, one of the key ones, was because it was the battle of the winless teams in 2024.
Yeah.
Nottingham Forest have been poor, they've missed a lot of chances, they've had like a few shining games here and there, but they haven't really had consistent run. And under Nuno, there've been some good ones and some bad ones. And you thought, West Ham, good chance here, bounce back, maybe push back for that, Conference League position. But 2-0, it probably was deserved. The way that Nottingham Forest were attacking, they had chances, they were pressing hard up the pitch. And West Ham just feel like, I keep saying, when they have the ball, when they have possession, they don't do anything with it. They're a good counter-attacking team, but when they have the ball, I didn't have that cutting edge to make the pass or split the game up.
It's definitely a dimension that they have to look at in the summer.
You need to get someone there.
You see sometimes these teams who do have counter-attack in them, and they are a counter-attack team, but you still sometimes have to get the ball and put a couple more passes together.
Absolutely, yeah.
So they're lacking that at the moment. And I think they're another one of those teams who were really relying on a little bit of a star power and losing a couple of those players. Like at one stage when Kudus and Paqueta came, dropped, and they were playing, I remember at one stage they're playing a midfield of Pablo Fornals. I can't remember, maybe
They played Souček, Ward-Prowse,
Pablo Fornals, and there was someone else.
They played
Cornet.
Cornet and Johnson were rotating on the flanks. And Johnson's a right back and Cornet's been out of form.
Yeah, so
that sums it up.
Like, they lost a bit of form and then they've brought some of those star players back.
Yeah.
And it's easier said than done, just get back onto the winning streak.
Yeah.
I think they'll be all right, but there is some areas to address in the off-season. I think they've definitely still exceeded expectations, and they will.
Definitely have, yeah.
And I don't see them finishing below 11th, but I think any chance of Europe is starting to really diminish. Yeah.
It's upset. Again, I'm one of those guys, I'll adjust my expectations week after week. So my expectations were quite high because they're playing some decent football. I think teams have worked out. Let West Ham have the ball.
Yeah.
Let them get it to your own half and then just go bang, counter-attack. And we know how quick Forrest are, Langer, Hudson Odoi. And Langer again, he didn't really count as an assist, but he still got one again. His numbers have been good. Hudson Odoi's been good. Awonyi, that's that guy. Whenever he plays, he scores goals.
Forest are a weird one because it feels like we're always talking about how good some of their players are.
Yeah.
But then they're like fifth last. So it's just so, it's so weird. Even you look at Chris Wood, who's been a lot better this year and got 8 or 9 goals or something ridiculous like that for a player in basically battling relegation.
Yeah.
And then they got Alanga, who's, wow, what has he done since he's left United?
Rejuvenated.
And even Morgan Gibbs-White's been decent as the season.
Yeah, he's got better.
Maybe he didn't start off so great. Yeah. But how can we be talking about so many players doing a decent job and then being so poor is just something that puzzles me.
Welcome to the Premier League. That's the best way to put it. Because other than for the 2 bottom teams, every other team can win on their day, I feel like.
I know, but I feel like when we talk even at the Fulhams of the world, and I know they yo-yo, there's less players that we think are having a good season.
Yeah. Maybe expectations are the thing. Cause
I think it's just less... if you were to do a bottom half Premier League team of the season, there'd be a few Forest players that are probably
I could probably get 3 in it, I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Hudson Odoi, even Dominguez, the Argentinian Dominguez. There's a few in there. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
It's a weird one. Even Woody wouldn't be in it, but he'd probably be
on the bench.
Yeah. He'd be the second striker behind Solanke.
Yeah. It's a weird one. Nuno, it'll be interesting what happens with Nuno next year because we can't really rank Nuno what he's done this season. But I don't know if I see Nuno being a Premier League manager in terms of obviously he did a great job with Wolves originally with this sort of type of team, right? It was a team that came up, but then it sort of got stale and he's not doing 5-back, he's doing 4-back with Forest. Is he even good at playing 4-back? Is it just the players? Because I think the players are still very good.
Yeah, he's got some good players, but I don't know if the players necessarily as well suit his game style. So this is where it could come from. They have a lot of players who are individually playing well, but they're not playing well as a team.
Yeah. So interesting, over summer, do they clear out again? Which I don't think you can
bring in half of, what is it?
Half of Olympiacos can come across.
Half of Porto, half of Sporting.
They just sign every Liga Portugal player that ever exists.
Crazy.
Interesting. But big for Forest. I think now they are joining Brentford and escaping.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not quite away yet, but they're doing their best to sort of separate themselves from Luton and Palace, who are struggling as well. The final one before our next segment, just quickly going to touch on Wolves and Spurs. Wolves, another big one. Gary O'Neill's special, this one here. Counter-attack, sat in, got the 2 goals. João Gomez got on the score sheet twice, so it's 3 goals for the season now for him. But Tottenham, again, just faltering. Like I said at the start of the episode, just little signs of might not be the resilient, beat every game, 4-0 game that we saw at the start of the season.
Yeah, I think this was to come, though. I think we're all on this sort of page at the start of the season that there was going to be a time because I don't know if the way they were playing with the quality they had could stack up. For them to go and continue in the way they were would be a Leicester type season. Yeah. Maybe not to that degree, but not far off.
Significant win, yeah.
Not far off. And I think it just shows their quality. Don't get me wrong, they just don't have enough attacking quality, in my opinion. They've relied heavily lately on Richarlison, who is good, but he's not a top 4 striker. Yeah, in my opinion.
Fair,
Would you agree with that as well?
I agree with that, 100%.
And so I think they're just lacking a little bit of quality. And I think Ange is continually still doing a good job. I wouldn't falter him based off that Wolves game whatsoever. But I think maybe they sometimes need to maybe not have so much of that ball because it looks like sometimes they're not creating. They're just playing around with it too
Yeah,
much.
Yeah. It feels like it's going to rely a lot on Madison. Because Madison's come back and been all right, but it wasn't the Madison before the injury.
No.
And the reason they were doing so well before his injury was because no matter how many numbers you put back or how many numbers they can flood forward, Madison would find that perfect
But
pass.
do you think that's also because of like Sarr and Basuma? Madison's not playing with him as much, and I think it really makes a difference because you had those two staples in front of the defense that just let Madison basically do what you were talking about with Bruno before. Just be anywhere on the pitch. He was picking it up from the centre back because it doesn't matter because those two are going to be next to him. And
they played on the weekend together, all three of them. I still reckon Papsar, Bentancur, and Madison's your best trio because Bentancur can create as well. I love Bentancur. I think he's one of the most all-round midfielders going around.
But sometimes when you have those people that create, like...
This sounds
It's not
stupid.
but
Bentancur reminds me of Kobe Minor of Manchester United that can go forward and be the great ball. But he's absolutely capable of sitting in. Whereas you've got Pat Madison and you've got Basuma.
But I think Pat Madison can attack as well.
He can,
we saw it early on in the season.
It just doesn't have that same feel that... Because if Madison doesn't work, then what's going to happen then? Where does your little heroic ball come from? Bentancur's got that in his calibre.
True.
And obviously, again, Son's come back from Asian Cup, so everyone's a little bit tired and
Son
stuff like
didn't have
that.
a great Asian Cup either.
No, so I understand that. But again, it feels like for Spurs to do and work this formation style to play out well, everyone has to be switched on. You have to be on the ball. Or the big play, like we said with Arsenal.
Yeah,
the Sons, the Madisons, the Richarlisons, Kulusevskis, all these guys have to be on their point to attack. Because otherwise, teams just sit back, sit nice and compact, have the ball, do whatever you want with it. We're going to have one pass because Van de Ven's basically on the edge of the box these days. And you one pass, and that was how the second goal came out. One pass, Neto, across the ball, Gomez, goal. And it's like...
Yeah, I know.
You live and die by the sword, obviously, with Ange.
I want to see it about match week 30 because I think we'll really be able to get a grasp on a couple more team seasons.
Yeah. Let everyone come back. Let everyone
About 5 more weeks will make a big difference. We might see there might not be these races anymore.
Might be all done.
Yeah.
Who knows? Now, here's another exciting segment I've got planned for us. Again, we're being very negative this week. I've gone with 5 of the worst transfers in the Premier League this season. So, again, we're being very negative. And I want to... Actually, before we go, I'm going to somewhat spoil my list. I've got all midfielders. Unless I've missed someone drastic, I've got every player I've got as a midfielder.
Yeah, okay.
Have you got something different? Okay, cool.
Just one that's not a midfielder.
Well, it's good then because it makes it interesting to listen.
And it's my number 5. And
oh, you numbered them.
Yeah.
Cool. You go number 5 and I'll number 1 quickly while you're doing that.
So my number 5, I didn't want to put him in here because I don't think he's been that bad. But if I look at like the Champions League, I genuinely think he single-handedly stopped United from progressing to the round of 16. So I have to put Onana in at number 5 just because of I think the difference between him and De Gea has been quite significant. He has picked it up as time's gone. These last couple of weeks, he's made some brilliant saves. And don't get me wrong, I think it's probably a testament to himself over the past couple of weeks that he's my number 5 because there would have been one stage in the season where it was 1 for sure. So I think that I just can't overlook what he did in the Champions League. And I think United, coming this time of the season, that we're finding some form now. You don't know what could have happened. A rejuvenized midfield that's completely different to what we were playing back then. And you look at some of those games, he single-handedly probably cost us 3 points, and 3 points gets us out of it.
Yeah, and then you're into round 16 or even Europa League or something.
Yeah, exactly. So,
fair point.
What about yourself, number 5?
I went Mahmoud Dahoud.
Yeah.
So someone that I actually
haven't seen.
Yeah, I hyped up pre-season thinking that he was good for Borussia Dortmund. Dortmund nearly won the Bundesliga last year. I think, great pick up for Brighton, a proper Brighton signing, someone that you never thought would have to work, but he's going to come and work wonders. He's gone, after the first probably 2 months of the season, disappeared. I think injuries, but even then, Gilmore and Gross have been better. And it was no money, so you can't really slag that part of it. But again, it just was it's a nothing signing in the end. Yeah. It's just a waste of wages. He's probably been one of the most wages at Brighton because Brighton players are all quite young and take some low wages. So I think that signing for Brighton especially as well, when Brighton get it wrong, it's a bad signing. Yeah. So he's my number 5. Again, because he hasn't really done anything great or bad. It just hasn't been there. So that's why he's number 5 for me.
Number 4, Caicedo.
You got him in?
Yeah, I'm got him in because you know what? He was 135 million.
Yep. That's
something around that figure. And genuinely, he's been non-existent, I would say. Yeah. I wouldn't say he's been necessarily terrible. He's not the worst midfielder in the Premier League. But for that much at Chelsea, he should be him and Enzo should be stars in the midfield.
Top 2 midfielders or top 3 midfielders in the Prem.
And then you got like Gallagher, who's their best midfielder. Like, it really doesn't make sense to me. So I think it'd be criminal of me not to put him on this list.
Yeah.
He's one of those ones, though, that is on this list because of the price.
Yeah.
More than... I wouldn't say he's like the worst signing based off his performances this year.
Yeah.
Although he wouldn't be too far off.
Far away from it, yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely... Cost has been a major factor in him being in the top 5.
Definitely. Yeah, I probably could have swapped if the other guy had in. My number 4 is Mason Mount.
Yeah.
Similar thing. Decent money. Ten Hag's number 1. I keep saying this is why I take context into it a little bit. That's Ten Hag's number 1 signing. First thing done. The earliest transfer I think Man United done in a long time. It was really early in the transfer window. Got him done. Bit of injuries here and there, but when he plays, he's either taken away from Bruno or taken away from that midfield 3. And this midfield 3 now, he ain't going to walk into the midfield at all.
No, definitely not.
He's probably behind Amrabat in this midfield, I think, right now.
Well, I think this current midfield 3 complements each other so much because you've got Cass that's holding and all that, and Mino who's doing the box to box. Bruno also seems a lot more free, although the goal contributions haven't come because there's those 2 holding.
He can be in the front 4 now. Yeah. It's front 4,
and
not
Mino
the front
seems
3.
as capable as any one of these other attacking type midfielders.
When we get to the game review, I want to touch on his performance.
But yeah, I think moving on to that, Mount was my number 3.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, definitely the exact same reasons. Haven't seen him, and if I'm going to look at the players ahead of him, so I think McTominay at the moment is first sub.
Yeah.
And McTominay will take the Minu position.
Yep.
And I think he takes Bruno's position if Bruno gets injured, because you've seen his attacking output this year. I think it'll be quite a little bit of a different dynamic if he took Bruno's position. It'd be more of like that false 9, playing him a bit like a Bellingham type role.
Yeah.
So
McTominay Bellingham.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying.
I like it.
But that's what the type of role he'd be more like. Yeah, getting in the box more than actually creating, which could be a negative in one way or another. But and then you look at Amrabat, I think would take, like, if Casemiro's out, you saw him come on last night, and then even possibly Eriksen before him.
Oh yeah, Eriksen, 100% before him as well.
So he's gone to number 7. He needs he won't even start in the Notts. Like if we would have a Notts County Carabao Cup match,
no, wouldn't play. And even the thing is, he was bought, I think, to back up Bruno. But the fact that Eriksen and McTominay, even
I'll tell you where he'll play when he'll play on the wings.
Yeah, but he's not quick enough.
As a but that's what it'll be like, attacking winger. Like yesterday, for example,
he would have come.
It would have been like, take Bruno off when Bruno went to right wing.
Yeah.
It'll be like, he's a bit of a waste there. We'll put Mount on or something like that.
It just feels like he was a Champions League winner, played one of the best in that team. I know a lot of those Chelsea players are sort of a bit fallen off, but still, he was massive that season. The COVID season the year before, those 2 seasons was probably one of the best midfielders in the Prem. Last year, it wasn't great, but I still reckon he was the best midfielder at Chelsea last season. So that's still a tick in my book. Yeah. You come to United for 65 million, your dad's club, your club growing up, and just put in like a world-class stinker. I think that's just,
Yeah, definitely.
The fall-off has to be studied.
Who do you have at number 3?
I went a Chelsea signing. So not Kaiser, I went with Lavia. Combination. And this goes back to what
he's hard though. He's very young and he's had injuries.
But this sort of goes to my number 2 though as well, because he hasn't been available. And when he's played, hasn't been that great. And 50 million, 45 million? It's a lot of money.
I know, but a lot of reason I didn't put Lavia in, a lot of the value in that signing was his age and his potential. And it wasn't a Caicedo who came in to star the midfield straight away. Yeah. And it's a total different sum of money, obviously.
Yeah, as well. It's half the amount, or double, almost
triple nearly.
Yeah, triple that amount he's got. So I get that. Yeah, just that. So much hype around him in the summer. Liverpool were in for him. Arsenal were thinking about him. He was a big name. Then gets injured. Haven't seen much of him. When we have, it's been a bit. But again, another thing. I think Carney Chukwuemeka starts ahead of him. I think Enzo, Gallagher, all these guys start ahead of him. He was brought in to be maybe a Caicedo backup or even start alongside Caicedo. Let Enzo be free. So the fact that he's not really going to be around that sort of top 4 or 5 Chelsea midfielders,
definitely
hasn't really been good for me. So he's my number 3.
Number 2, very new one, Calvin Phillips.
You're number 2, fair play.
Yeah, so I had to put him on the list. 7 million loan fee, if you didn't know.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Which is quite a lot for a loan fee. And like, a lot of money. He has been genuinely terrible. I know it's only been like 6 weeks, but like
the worst 6 weeks of my life.
I haven't seen this is like Maguire-esque performance.
I think Maguire would have been better than him in this.
No, Maguire's at United would have been better, but imagine Maguire those 6 weeks, probably a year into his career, where he was just completely making mistake after mistake and terrible. That's what Calvin Phillips is. It'd be hard for me not to put him on this list.
Yeah, well, yeah. I've got Sandro Tonali number 2 for me.
Yeah, okay.
The bloody Bet365, mate. You should just stay away from the Bet365.
Crazy. Didn't even put like someone else's name on it.
Yeah.
He put his own
He put
name.
his own name. What an idiot. And you know what? The worst thing is, there's other Italians that did it with him, but none of them got banned as well. Did any of them else get banned?
Fajoli got banned for
Fajoli
Juve.
got banned. Okay, I thought maybe didn't make it as bad, but still.
And Zaniolo never did.
He never did.
I'm pretty sure he did it with
that
him.
makes it worse. Like, you got caught, and you were the big money signing for Newcastle, and Newcastle doing rubbish this season, and he put in some good performances before he got sent away. So it's sort of like what you've lost is why I've got him so high, because he's a great player, and he was performing okay, but you left your team down for 8 months because you wanted to put a cheeky Bet365 on.
Yeah.
So he's my number 2 for me.
Well, yeah, moving on to my number 1, Tonali.
Tonali, yeah.
So Tonali had to be my number 1, has featured basically nothing. To be honest, like when he did feature at the start of the season, he was like, really good. Like I remember that first game against Villa.
Scored the first goal.
Scored the first goal. Like, looked exciting, but the reason I've got him at number 1 is purely because I don't see a reason that Newcastle didn't know what was happening. AXC knew what was happening. Whether you guys think that they're going to sell their star boy who came from like the youth setup, who was playing amazing. Like, we're talking like genuinely could have been $100 million sale. Went for like 65, 70. Don't get me wrong. You got like, there's no tax in Syria and all this kind of stuff comes across. But it didn't make sense for me for like, Tonali didn't want to leave either. No. Like, so against leaving. They knew what was going on. They were like, let's get 70 million, sign these 5 or 6 players AC. So for Newcastle not to know is quite concerning, because I doubt they did though.
If they did, that's
they did and thought that maybe he would only get like a 3-month suspension maybe.
Either way, it looks bad at Newcastle.
Yeah.
It looks really bad if you think you're going to get away with it.
Even if you're going to get like a 3-month suspension, would you not think that like, hold on, we'll hold 6 months?
Yeah, wait for January where his value might tank because he hasn't played. I don't know. It just seems...
Well, yeah, you think this happened but then is it one of those things as well that got more profiled because he's in the Prem?
Probably.
But then the Juve player got 12 months.
Yeah, true. I think he got 8 months, Tonali? Is that 8 months? Yeah.
To be honest, he shouldn't be too far from coming back. Does he come back this season at all?
I'm not sure.
If it was only 8 months, surely he does.
No, he does. Well, yeah, he
might.
might.
But then he probably went out like 6, 7 weeks.
He was started the first few games of the season, so yeah, he might miss this season, but still. My number 1 was Calvin Phillips, just because this is the reason this segment exists. I was on Saturday night, I was watching, I was like, he got yellow carded for pushing out, fair enough, because Dominguez was being a bit of a dick, so fair play. But the fact you go into a challenge 2.5 minutes later with your foot like there, come on, man. Like, you know what you're doing. Stupidity. I think he cost that West Ham game versus United because it was still close. Slips over, gives away the goal. But okay, United win that one. Gives away this game for West Ham. We weren't playing well, but you go down to 10 men and then Nottingham Forest dominate the rest of the game. And what was his first game? He made a big mistake in there as well.
I don't know.
But the first game as well, at home, big home debut, stuff's up there as well. They look better without him. And we said, I think, was it you and me said it, or me and Flynn who said it? I wouldn't have put him in that starting 11 when he first joined because that midfield was working so good.
Yeah, exactly.
It was fine. Why change it if it wasn't broke? David Moyes obviously felt compelled to change it because they're paying a lot of money for him to get there. And ever since, the midfield looks so unbalanced, don't control games.
There's a buy clause there. I don't know if it's like a have to buy clause. Yeah, like a mandatory one. It's just hopefully not, because I don't think West Ham
do not want that. David Moyes could be costing his own job.
City would be annoyed at the moment because they're probably still thinking they could get 30, 40 for him. What's he like,
10
20
million
now?
15 mil max.
Crazy.
If he plays in the Euros or gets picked for the Euros, that is awful from Southgate.
I'm not a Southgate fan.
That's almost like sue the bloke for what have they got on him? But there you go. There's our top 5 stinker signings. Everyone midfielders other than for your Nanish out there. Goes to show. A lot of pressure on the midfield battles. You always say that midfield battles count a lot in the Premier League, and if you're not a good midfielder, you're going to shout out. Now, the shock result of the weekend, the biggest game of the weekend, was Man City and Chelsea.
Yeah, and like
1-1.
Really, looking back at the game, Chelsea really should have put 2 or 3. Like, what was Nicholas Jackson doing? Would Gusto put the ball across like far out?
Couldn't get the ball at his feet.
I'm so happy we don't have him at United. Like,
we were close to getting him as well. It was up for debate at some point.
Yeah, but what is he doing? And then City come back at the end. Rodri again.
I said it.
Some of the chances Haaland was missing starts to make you like. Don't get me wrong, Haaland's going to be one of those players that no matter what, when you're playing for City and you're getting that service, you're going to score 25 goals a year.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like he's got to score more with the service he's getting. It gets back to like the Núñez type thing. Like it's not that Núñez isn't playing well. It's just like the amount of shots he's having clear cut chances. Like at one point, maybe he's still quite youthful and young in his career, but he's got to put those chances away. And like, Haaland was injured, come back, and I know he scored the double last week, but he hasn't been great.
Yeah. So I got it written down. So the header in the 12th minute was basically a tap in for him.
Yep.
Where he was all
I
unmarked.
don't even think that was the worst one. There was one in about the 60 or 70.
Yeah, so later in the game, Foden found him, 51st minute. He missed that. It was a bit of a harder chance. And then later on, again, it was on a counter-attack. And it was one of their only good counter-attack chances, 65th minute. And just missed it from 6 yards out. De Bruyne found him with a great ball into the area.
Like he was free. Like there was no...
Open. No, the Colwill went to try and get him offside, but he was onside and just missed it.
Yeah, and it was like a diving header that they're the easiest probably because you don't have to flick them down.
Yeah.
Like just get over the top of it.
Hit into the ground. Because the keeper was standing still. He had no chance.
Oh, Joe, I'm happy because as a United fan who's not in the race, I'd rather see a bit of a contest at least at the top of the...
And it sounds bad, but I don't like Pep as much. I like Klopp a little bit more. So if I had anyone win it, I'd rather Liverpool win it.
I can't though because they're going to level up our...
I know, but I feel like
Premier League.
But I feel like I can't have City winning so many these records of most.
Are they leveling or going one up?
They'll level it because they were 19 now. They go to 20.
Yeah,
I can't have City go treble and like 4 in a row Premier League.
As long as they don't win the treble, which they're not, I don't think.
They still win the treble.
I know, but I don't think they will. They're too.
Real Madrid should win the Champions, I think.
Yeah, I don't think they will. I'd rather they win than the other two because Arsenal.
Like, I'm not having Arsenal. Arsenal will kill me.
And I don't want to hear them like.
We will cancel the podcast.
We'll
cancel the podcast. Arsenal win the Premier League.
And then Liverpool, I don't need them to equal United. It just doesn't need to happen.
I just like Klopp. I feel like I've got a soft spot for Klopp. Maybe that's where I come. But City though, it's the first sign of them post February falter.
Yeah.
So normally the falters come in Jan and
especially at home.
At home, they haven't lost. They've drawn. It feels like they've lost.
Where is Ikai when you need him?
But it was Rodri in this game. I said it to the group chat. Rodri and Gundogan are those clutch players. Whenever you need a goal, FA Cup against United, who was it? Rodri popped up.
That's the pure reason why I'm always Rodri over Rice still. Because Rodri has just done it in the big games.
Yeah.
Always when they need him, he does it.
Won a Champions League last year for them. Helped them win the FA Cup against us last season.
The Nations League final.
Came up clutch as well. I think a few years before in the Premier League, one of those close ones, he was one of them. Got one of the goals that helped them over the line. He's the CDM, by the way. He's the guy that's supposed to defend the back line.
Which shouldn't have any goal contributions basically at all, especially in a team for City where
so good
he's just so pivotal in like what they do in their ball movement. It's not really about that final pass for it. No. It's not about getting those shots off. For him to continually get these goal contributions he's quite impressive, to say the least.
Like obviously De Bruyne is the best midfielder in the Prem, but him and Rodri right now, in terms of the impact they need to have, it's getting closer and closer every time I'm with Rodri.
Definitely. Especially after KDB was out for so long. Rodri's definitely caught him over that period.
And because we see what Bernardo Silva can do, it's not like, obviously not nowhere near De Bruyne, but it's not like we haven't seen it before. So I think Bernardo Silva's to that degree. But you say Rice is not the player that Rodri is. No, at the start of the season, I was on the Rice thing of saying, Rice can sort of do it. But Rice can't come like that, 81st minute, game on the line, belts it in, top, that's just Rodri.
Yeah, crazy.
There's no one like Rodri.
Definitely not.
And for Chelsea, bit of momentum sort of coming.
Yeah, but they've done this so many times through the season. I'm not going to take anything from it.
Let me read a few of the recent results. The recent results have been a bit better. I think you come across where I'm saying if you listen to the recent results. So 1-0 against City, 3-1 against Palace. I know it was late, but they got the 3-1 versus Palace. They lost to Wolves. That was a bit of a stick. Then they lost the... Okay, give it up.
They're another one like Newcastle. I need to see them have a little bit of a run. Just
4 games. Like,
if you're not the Todd Bowley and the Chelsea board, do you not... I'm not saying necessarily now it's even about like go get a Europe spot or go do this, but you at least need to see a period of games where you're like, okay, this is what we stand for. This is the team that we're going to have going into next year. We make a couple more like reinforcements with like maybe in another. Well, they probably need a striker. Yeah. So, but there's not. I still don't see like okay. I'll give it the best. My friend here isn't on the seat, but we had a huge debate going back. I reckon 10 match weeks.
Okay. Yeah.
About United and Chelsea's trajectory.
Oh, yeah.
And
I was on the other side of this as well, yeah.
And I said United got way, way more like because of all those injuries they had.
Yeah.
And the only injuries that Chelsea had at that time were two people who were both injury-prone players.
Yeah.
And yes, maybe United's got Shaw, who is now an injury-prone player.
Yeah.
But bar that, you see the difference of like Mainu and Casemiro coming back in. And I was big on this with Chelsea. I don't know what you guys saw. You guys just saw them holding a bit more possession. That's all you saw, in my opinion. Yeah. I think there was like, they can play with the ball a bit better. But like, they just reminded me a bit of Louis van Gaal United.
Yeah, 70% possession, not doing much.
Yeah.
I think Poch can turn it around. There's a good sign of it.
He can turn it around, but I think I don't see it this season. And it's like, I just don't see as Chelsea. I think you get to this point where you become a small club mentality. If you're going to, every time you go through a little bit of a crap spell and you sack a couple managers, that you let them do this. Yeah. Is the best way to say. Like, I was big on the Ten Hag bandwagon. But if Ten Hag went to the depths, like how deep Chelsea have gone, I would have had to have gone Ten Hag out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's acceptable, because what happens then is, it's not about, whether he's got a game plan or this. It's like, okay, the next manager then that comes in, he's allowed, you can't sack him if he's 12th now. Yeah. So now, let's say so then let's say you do it. So let's say you give Poch till the end of next season, and then you sack him. Well, you got to give that guy the first season, you got to let him finish 12th.
Yeah.
If he finishes 12th, like, even after with all this money, like, so it's just going to be an endless thing. And as big clubs, you've got to be fighting at least up at the end of the table. And I don't think it's acceptable. And I'm not going to say, like, I think Chelsea may be at 10th.
10th now at the moment. Yeah, 10th.
I'm not going to say they're finishing 12th, but I'd say still at the end of the season, they've got to finish 8th.
They could finish as high as 7th.
No, I understand that, but do you not think they've got to finish, they've got to get a Conference League
at
spot?
Least, yeah, at least.
In my opinion.
They need the money in as well. They need players to come in and join them. You're not going to get that if you're play Europe.
If you're like the Chelsea board, I think you've got to have a Conference League spot to keep your manager. Otherwise, you're starting to get into this realm where you're just getting into this small club mentality. I don't care if it's like, Poch is like... But because if Poch goes through a little run, Poch will finish 8th.
Yeah.
That's how easy it is when the current place they are in the Premier League. So... for them not to finish 8th, it's like they don't go on that run. And then it goes like, come on, where are they really going? You're going to allow these managers
There's solid signs there. Like, Desat had a great game in this game. Enzo's putting in a few more consistent performances. I like Malo Gusto. Malo Gusto's looked good recently.
I know, they've done this before. They did it against Liverpool early on in the season. Chelsea again with the 4-4.
But it's not like... the results aren't coming... The results are saying still up and down, but at least the performance is looking a bit more consistent recently. And it's just like, I think they've finally turned the right direction. I think they'll continue to be up and down this season. I'm going to stick by the fact they'll continue to do that. But at least you're seeing some pieces which are worth keeping. There's no longer, who the hell do we sort out? Who do we keep? Who do we get rid of? At least there's a few players now, at least a backbone to your team.
I just think it's very hard because they've got no injuries coming back and all this kind of stuff.
But your number one signing, Nkunku's just starting to get fit. He was their big signing. He was a player that was playing so well in the preseason.
Yeah, I know. But you look at all those players and their names that they brought in. Like, well, you've got to have a talk with someone, whether that's Poch who wanted these players or like the board or whoever it was. Then someone's got to like lose a job over this. Then at least
it's a lot of axe cutting for a team that just needs some stability at some point. You've had so much turnover. You need something. The new manager's been there for now just over. Oh, no, not even a year, under a year. You've had players that have been there for less than 2 years. You just need a year just to set everything down. Next year, if you're doing the same thing, then it's problems.
Nah, because you can't, I'm big on you can't allow managers that much time at these huge clubs with these huge budgets. He shouldn't be allowed. Because I just think you're gonna create precedents that's going to cause a lot of problems into the future.
In the past, yeah, I would agree. But because of how even this league is right now, you said it perfectly before. Down to 11th and 12th, you could hypothetically make, Conference League football.
But you look at the teams that Chelsea is around, apart from Newcastle, they have quality that exceeds every single one of those
absolutely.
teams. In every single position.
But every team has a poor year. It's just that this year and now in the future, Premier League's so deep. If you have a poor year, you can drop out to the bottom half. That's the way the Premier League is now.
Yeah, but you look at even like how bad United were, like the years of like Ragnick, and like that's the same one with Moyes. I think Newcastle got to develop this killer instinct where it's like, we're not going to stand for this anymore.
the final thing I touched on, the Rangnick thing, the United thing, or like even the Arsenal things. You didn't have Newcastle, you didn't have Brighton, you didn't have West Ham. There's 3 teams, and that's different between Chelsea being 10th versus 7th. So it's the same thing. You know what I mean?
I don't think it's acceptable.
It's not probably acceptable, but I think you need to give leeway. I think as with
I don't
with
think
Potter's
everyone
situation.
can go down the Arteta path though, because
It's not the Arteta path. This is a totally new path because it's the new Premier League. We're seeing 11, 12 teams who are
But
both
I'm
all
saying
capable
it's
of being
all right if you finish 8th. In the past, I would have said sack the manager if you finish 8th.
Yeah,
So
but
I'm
8th
saying-
now is the new 10th or 11th. That's the way the Premier League is now. You've got 3 or 4 more teams that are in this debate.
No,
now.
no, but I'm understanding that.
Yeah.
But what I'm changing that based on it. I would have said before, like as a Chelsea, if you don't finish 6th, if you finish 7th, you get the sack. Whereas now I'm saying, I think any of those big clubs outside 6 3 years ago would have got the sack. So now you go, okay, 8th is the new 6, which would be in agreement there.
Okay, yeah. I still think 10's a number now. There's 10 good teams.
Doesn't matter.
We're getting Aston Villa's all the way up in 4th.
Doesn't matter.
They would normally be in relegation zone. So it's a harder league.
I would sack Ten Hag if he didn't finish 6th this season.
That's you.
But I think
your
everyone's got to have that killer instinct. I wouldn't sack Ten Hag because I don't necessarily think he couldn't do the job in the future. I just think I don't want to be at a club where this precedent starts because it causes a lot of problems. You look at Everton, who kind of let it go for a little bit, and now what happens? They were a club that wouldn't have let this happen, and then I think like even someone like an Arsenal are lucky. Because if you put the precedents they did with Arteta and Arteta didn't turn out, and probably more chances than none, that story doesn't happen. And you're going to say, yeah, it has happened now. But for all the times it does happen, I think it'd work way better in the other way.
I don't use Arteta. I use Klopp as an example because Klopp's finished 8th. Then they got 4th.
But I said, okay. But
that's 8th in the stinky Premier League.
But I think
That's
it's all.
awful
But
Premier League.
I think you got to provide context.
I'm giving the context.
No,
There's
but the
11,
context
12 good teams
The
this year.
context is, go look at that Liverpool team that Klopp inherited and
I
the
know,
signings
and I
he
know.
was allowed,
Yeah,
the
but-
budget he was allowed.
Yeah, but
that's
the only difference Poch has had is he's got a few more signings, but his signings haven't actually played. Nkunku is his
doesn't
signing.
matter. Doesn't matter if it's his signings or not. The quality of players he has. If you're a good manager, I'm not saying he's going to go win the Premier League with that team, but you got to at least get something. I'm not saying you're going to get the best out of them.
I think something is finishing 9, 10, 8 around that mark.
10,
with the league we're in, that's the way it's going to
So
be.
you think something's finishing above a Brighton who's been finishing below a Brighton who genuinely
They've been bad as well this year, but same as Chelsea. But because of how good the league is, Luton can beat anyone on their day. For God's sake, Brentford can beat anyone on their day this season. You're the one who started this episode off saying how equal and how to the death
it is. But you got that much quality.
You can't have that many teams competing for these spots. You're going to have a certain amount of teams. There's a threshold. Otherwise, everyone will be on 30 points right now. But no, there has to be some teams that exceed. Some teams have to fall short of expectations.
But if you fall short of expectations, then you got to get the sack.
But it's exaggerated. But no, because the same teams like Arsenal, like Manchester United, like Liverpool have the last few years,
if they're not
short,
finished 7th,
didn't
would you
look as
sack
bad.
him?
No, I would not, because I'm not a cutthroat sicko.
You got to be cutthroat though.
But you see, it doesn't work. You just end up spending 150 more million next year. That money is just wasted. Can we agree though, at least to finish this off? Every new manager comes in at least needs 150 million pounds. Can we agree on that?
At these big clubs,
At these, now almost the top half clubs. Any top half club.
Yeah.
FFP is a real thing. You end up doing this cycle. Chelsea have already started this cycle. Don't go through it one more time.
You're acting like they're not going to go make the same signings as if a new manager wouldn't come in.
But they might not though, because they'll finally have a pre-season under the manager and together. That's why I'll finish it there.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll quickly skip through the last 2 games.
We can agree to disagree there.
We'll agree to disagree. We'll skip through the last 2 games because we're going to be running late. 5-0 Brighton over Sheffield United. Easy game there. Dringer's back and scoring a double, which is good for them. And Sheffield United are still poo. And then United beat Luton 2-1. The only thing I want to touch on is obviously Mainu in this game.
Yeah, wow.
Most carries of a United player since 2018 and Paul Pogba. So the comparisons are there.
It's just amazing to see because this player hasn't just come on the scenes and been really good. He's actually changed United. The fact that he is playing in comparison to the next best option is like a significant change in United's season. Him pairing up with Casemiro, he's been better than Casemiro. He, in my opinion, he's probably been in these past 10, 15
The best
weeks
midfielder.
the best midfielder in the league.
Yeah. Oh. No, I won't say no. Well, I'll let you have that one.
Top five.
Top five. I'll give top five. I'll give top five.
I've gone too hard there. The United bias has kicked in. But
The best thing though is when the game gets tight and knacky, you think an 18-year-old won't do it. But he picks the ball up, he'll nutmeg a few guys, he'll play the right pass. He's got vision, he's got IQ, and he's got the feet.
You know what he reminds me of? Busquets. I was watching so much overnight.
I think he's more skillful than Busquets.
The way he grabs that ball, and he every single time, there was even one where it was like, inside of the left foot, outside, gets the pass stop.
Yeah.
Around him, just like quick feet, a nutmeg. Then it's like, it's just that first touch where the player's coming and he takes that first touch where both players are on the left and right of him, and he'll take that first touch through the middle of them. And it just opens up so much more. It's like, even so many times you look at like an 18-year-old Onana passed him with a player up his ass.
Yeah,
he
bang.
always banged
Released.
that. Released. And don't get me wrong, that's expected in the Premier League. But you'd see a lot of 18-year-olds that would make a mistake here, there and everywhere. But yeah, wow. And one more thing I wanted to touch on the United game. Dalot, 88%.
My guy, Dallo.
Yeah, 88% tackle success rate, which is the highest currently in the Premier League.
Most consistent performer, I feel like United at the moment. He plays every single game. He's been put all over the park. He puts in great balls into the area. He looked knackered yesterday, but he's still putting a shift.
Yeah,
and that's a good sign.
The one thing I will touch on with the match is, like, United took the lead, and we're touching on before, like, I think that's been the big change in United, which is a really good change. Yeah. I think that gives me as a United fan a lot more confidence.
Yeah.
And then finally, like, I don't know exactly what happened, but Luton came back on top. But saying that, United probably still had 6 or 7 chances, which were clear-cut. You look at the Bruno chance, the Garnacho chance, the Højlund chance, like the Dalot chance, and Højlund really should have had a hat-trick. That was a pretty clear chance. Yeah. But yeah, finally, before we quickly move on, like Højlund, wow. I think he's the youngest player to score in 6 consecutive Premier League matches. And yeah, he always showed he had the talent in the Champions League, what he did early on. But yeah, he just needed the chances. And like, he's got now 7 Premier League goals, I think, from under 30 shots, which is amazing. Which when then you got like someone like Núñez who's got 80 shots and only got 9 goals. Like, don't get me wrong, they're both having a good season, but he really shows that if he can get the service, like if he was in a City team, I genuinely think he'd score as many goals as Haaland. Yeah.
That's to final my comments. Firstly, to finish on Manu, I think he's a 30-year-old and 18-year-old body. He's got that silky first touch. He takes a one little jig inside out and he can nutmeg defenders. He's got that. And then on Højlund, it's quite interesting that United have gone back to the old days with like trusting the young kids. Garnacho 19, Højlund 21.
Turned it as well.
Yeah, and Manu 18 is carrying this side. They're the 3 best players this season, and then Dalot's probably next. But it just goes to show that if you're good enough, you're old enough. And I feel like for Manchester United right now, 4 wins in the trot, and like we said, close that gap up, make that top 4 race interesting, and it could end up being a successful season. You get an FA Cup maybe, hypothetically. That's a successful season.
Manu's just that guy out of uni that every employer wants with 13 years experience straight out of uni.
Get him out of uni straight away is a class
13 years experience.
I tell you what, that Euros, that people campaigning for it now, so we were early on that.
Yeah.
Let's finish off winners and losers.
Yep.
My winners is the Premier League fans. That Man City have dropped points, so we've got a proper title race. We've seen the first cracking for Manchester City, which is good, and I want to see Liverpool and Arsenal compete for it. I want to be there in the last night. I'll pack it in. We'll get 8 people sitting on the floor. We'll quad screen it. We'll get all the games. I want to be sitting here for that final day doing that. My losers, Calvin Phillips, because he's had an almighty stinker. The worst 4 weeks I think a person could ever have in their career.
So my winners is like the United youth
setup.
Yeah. Like, obviously we've had a few come through, but if you think about it, we've only really had Rashford before the Garnacho and Manu coming through. Like, we had Greenwood, but we obviously that didn't turn out too good. And then my losers are Luton.
Yeah, tough.
And I had them as my losers last week, and I'm going to have them as my losers again this week, because more looking now at the Nottingham Forest win.
Yeah, big for Nottingham Forest.
So looking at the Nottingham Forest win now means that they, on a run with Everton, basically.
Yeah.
And we know Everton's probably got a little bit more quality than them.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, they're in a bad spell at the moment, Everton. But they've got realistically 8 points more than them, which shows they've played better across the 25 or 26,
24 games.
24 games they've played so far. So yeah, Luton has to be my loser again.
Yeah.
And that's more of like a fortnightly thing.
Yeah, it's carried over.
Yeah, it's a carryover.
And they could have obviously got 3 points that game. Their game could have gone either side for United or Luton. Either team could have won. And like, obviously the fans would debate otherwise. Yeah, so right now, Sheffield United 13th, Burnley 13th, they're gone. Everton 19th, Luton 19 points, 19, sorry, and Luton 20, and Crystal Palace 24 is the only team I can see dropping in. Even then, tonight, if Crystal Palace
you got Elise back and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Those guys never fit, but when they are back, they're electric.
Yep.
Anyway, another great episode. Another one about Flynn. So maybe we just terminate his contract and.
Well, yeah, I was close to the termination.
He went missing for too long. We're just like, do we sign the deal? No. He'll probably back next week. Hopefully, we're a bit more.
So I challenged everyone last week to get us to 400 subscribers.
We're so close.
And we're so close.
I think we're 3 off. 4?
Listen. This is going to be non-excusable for next week.
If we're not back,
we're not at 400 next week. I might not be on the show.
He walks.
I walk. So let's do it.
Let's do it. Big one this week. Obviously, this one we get subscribed on this one. We've got heaps of videos coming out.
And
this
comment
week.
400 subscribers
if you're still here. And also comment. What should we comment? Jeez, what's you going?
Dye your hair back, Flynn.
Flynn's hair. Comment Flynn's hair. And 400 subscribers.
And if you're watching this and we've already hit 400 subscribers,
comment 500.
Yeah, comment 500.
That being said, guys, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, 5 stars on Spotify, a thumbs up, I think, on Apple Podcasts, or follow on Apple Podcasts. That'd be much appreciated. Till next week, mate. I'll see you then.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Join me and Nathan on Thursday for the midweek podcast. Gee, there's a lot of stuff going on in the Serie A and in the Bundesliga. A lot of stuff we talk about then. Till next time, guys, have a good one. Enjoy the football, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace out.